teasing you about Ferrari not winning because it didn't hunt a...
Well, it ain't nothing changed, though. I mean, that content's good for that's evergreen.
With that said, welcome to the LinkUp Podcast, episode 134. Another week back in the building. Some familiar faces, maybe not familiar faces. To my left, to my right, I have the one and only Mr. Salsa Poppy, Mr. Before the Ballot, whatever he was saying. 30,000 interviews with politicians over the last couple of weeks. Ferrari's still losing, by the way.
Jeez.
Welcome to the
Thank
podcast,
you.
Chris.
Thank you.
See you repping your hoodie. That's good.
Always.
How you feeling? You did a lot, man. I
feel
your exhaustion.
The day right before the last recordings, I was a little bit tired. And then after I finished the last recording, I was sad. I was like, man, I can't believe it's actually over now.
How many recordings do you think you did? Because I saw your face on IG a lot. I was tired of seeing you all over the place.
Yeah, it had to be over 15 probably.
And then the parties too. They were reposting it. They were sponsoring the ads. And
yeah. No, it was a lot busier than I thought it was ever going to be.
Yeah.
Than I ever thought it was going to be. It was a lot busier.
So just to show you our appreciation from Smith Road Publishing.
From Smith Road Publishing?
Yeah, I mean, you'll see it on the bank statements in a couple of days.
Who approved this transaction?
Yeah, exactly. We wanted to give you something for your hard work. It's small. We want to make you blush, make you tear up a little bit.
There we go.
You know? Is that possible? Can you pass it to me? Yeah. This is
Miss Vanna White.
Miss Vanna White. This is for you, Chris. This is for all your hard work. Is something I think you'll enjoy. Something that you're very, very familiar with. Podcast listeners are very familiar with it as well. And hopefully we can get a couple of episodes with you on this.
Well, it's been a while. What this is now? Oh, jeez. Yeah, the last time. You know, when we recorded an episode by certain people's house when we never had a home, I finished a bottle of this by myself on that show.
I know. I remember. It was a good show too, by the way. I don't remember which number show it was, but it was a good show. So
Sake.
Thank you, man. Just keeping it in line with Sake.
Wow. So we're gonna do episode 3 of Sake Papi.
Maybe
we've only done 2. We've only done 2
that we could air. Yeah.
That we could air.
But
all right, we'll get.
Enjoy it.
You know what? Just one of these days we're gonna have to record like on a weekend, just so like because recording on Monday and drinking this is rough for Tuesday.
Yeah. Be all right. It has a G on it too, by the way. That's for you.
Yeah. That's the good stuff too, boy.
Shout out to Z. Thank you for that. We have something for D-Bird too, and he's MIA on us. D is doing some big TV station stuff. I don't know. Let's get right into it. We have a guest.
Yeah, man.
So we know
Mr. Bulldozer himself.
Hey, that was an interesting time, man. That was an interesting time. I want to welcome to the show former Minister for Infrastructure.
The action man.
The action. Yeah, the action man, Mr. Arden McLean. Welcome to the podcast. How are you, sir?
I am great. Thank you for inviting me. When Chris asked me to come on, I didn't know what it was about, but certainly it's interesting. I'm sure it will be interesting, and thank you also, Mr. Crombie.
You gonna be on your best behavior?
Absolutely. I've never misbehaved.
A day in your life, not one.
I don't recall.
I gotta say, one of my very first interactions with you was at a radio station. I got 2 actually, but one was it might have been Rooster at the time, I think. And I was driving on my way there because I was gonna do an interview or something. I was next up, and you and somebody was y'all were going at it. I thought it was a war zone. I was about to walk in there too, and then as I entered, you were, I guess, had just finished. And you were outside the door, and you were taking an adult break. And I was just so confused as a young person. I was like, man, I thought they were going to get to blows. And I said, Mr. McClean, you all right? And you just looked at me and you say, old boy. You said one of your phrases, old boy, old buddy.
Old boy, yes.
Yeah, and you said, I love it. I just love it, and I never forget that when it comes to this institution of politics. And I was just completely dumbfounded, and you were just on a high. You was just, that gets me going, and I enjoy the game in that respect.
I think that I have always been very passionate in the thrust of the debate and the campaign in particular. I've always been very passionate on that, and I am very passionate when it comes to life is about opinions. You have yours, I have mine, and if you haven't changed my mind on mine, then you haven't won me yet. You need to convince me that your opinion is better than mine, or I'm going to hold my own.
You say you don't roll over?
No, I don't. A lot of people don't like that. People don't love me, but they respect me for the passion
100%.
that I have, and I fight with all of my might to defend those who cannot fight for themselves. I hate injustice.
Where does that come from? Where does that come from for you?
I think it came from my parents. I saw my dad, and Chris' father and I are first cousins. And my dad was very passionate about fighting for justice. And I grew up with that. I grew up with that. And fortunately or unfortunately, all of my siblings are the same way. I speak up. We speak up when we see injustice. And then growing up and learning what Dr. Martin Luther King said, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And I believe that you have to prove to me that even at school, when I was going to high school, it was the same thing. You have to prove to me that what you're telling me are the facts.
Yeah. That sounds like that works well when you are a community organizer, when you are about to run for politics and you're about to get into it fresh. How does that work when you're trying to play nicely with 18 other individuals?
Well, I believe that a lot of it has, you should respect the other person, respect their views, but you expect them to respect your views as well. And you will get a lot of people who are very domineering in politics, and you need to look out for them. And it works well when they see you're not backing down. Especially you don't back down until you're proven wrong, and then you apologize.
Can you be an effective policymaker if you don't have a strong will?
No. And I saw a few things happen recently. Let me relate it to me, and then you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. When I was Minister for Infrastructure, I saw there were occasions that people tried to bully me as well, not knowing who I was. And I stood up to them. And you cannot go into politics and govern with your tongue in your head. Your tongue has to be wagging. It has to be moving. You have to speak up. And you have to think also. You have to be rounded. If you got this one-track mind and don't understand what people are proposing or what you need to propose, then of course you're ineffective. You can't do anything. And I've seen a number of politicians who are not firm enough in their resolve, and it doesn't go across well. Whilst you have to respect that politics is the art of compromise. It may not be the way you propose it, but you're close to it. Once a consensus has been reached. And that's what politics is about. You have to understand the art of compromise. One of my good friends when we were there was Kurt Tibbetts. Kurt was the leader. And I would rush into Kurt's office. Kurt, I need to do this. I need to get this. Kurt said, all right. And
This was when you were a minister?
Yes.
Okay.
And he was leading. And of course, Kurt, he is very good with convincing you that you are wrong. He's extremely good with that. And Kurt would always say, all right, Arden, have a seat. Let's talk about it. When I leave Kurt's office,
Yeah.
I am not where I was when I walked in. He has convinced me of a different way to do it. I get this close to the same results that I wanted, but down a different path.
Yeah.
And, that's the art of good governance.
You mentioned your time as minister. This is my second interaction. It was when I kind of interviewed you. I don't know if you remember this. We did a radio show. This is 2010. And I asked you at the time, you were just coming out, your time there. And I said, man, I mean, what is the one thing you didn't really get to tackle while you were
remember
there?
what I said?
I remember what you said.
Okay.
We still not tackling it yet. It was the dump. And you paused, you sat back in the chair and you said, man, the one thing I wish we had tackled during my time would have been sorting out that dump issue. That was 2010. We're now in 2025.
We're now in 2025. I lost in 2021, something like that. And I believe that will haunt me for the rest of my life. It is, I think I can describe it as the biggest regret of my life. I don't have many regrets, but the one regret that haunts me and will forever be part of my legacy as an individual is that I did not complete the dump.
What was the hiccup there? 20 years ago. What was it?
I have looked at this thing since my tenure. I work hard. Ralston, CG, myself, Miss Lucille, we work very hard on trying to resolve our garbage problem. It's me who nicknamed the dump Mount Trashmore.
Hey, listen, I believe it because I remember even a couple of years ago, we had a lot of people acting in government, and one of your lines in the parliament was coming like Cayman turn Hollywood because everybody acting. It was a bar.
Civil service.
Yeah, that was a bar.
What happened to us? I was on the brink of signing a contract, and watch these numbers now, for just over $100 million. Move forward to 2021, which is 12 years later, it's $2 billion. That was mind-boggling for me. It was just over 100 million, and we would have to have found $20 million for the legacy, to deal with the legacy. And the recession hit us in 2008. Mm-hmm. And
you had to take a step back.
And I have regretted that all my life. But what I did do was to have it as a constant reminder of my failures. I took a copy of everything that I did, and I have it at home, and I protect that with my life, because that needs to go to my grave with me, because I'll never get the chance again to do it. But when I look at the amount of what Alfonso was part of it as well. Alfonso did the recycling part of it, where we would do separation and recycle the stuff. We were going to buy trucks with the different compartments to pick up garbage. All that is part of this report. Yeah. We knew how much cardboard was coming in, and the report, I wanted the Mount Trashmore to be 4 feet above sea level in 19 years. Well, I said 20, but when we looked at it and we did all the tests, it came down to 19 years. I wanted it done 20 years, 4 feet above sea level, because we were going to use the Mount Trashmore as stock fuel for the burners, for the boilers and to make electricity. But we were going to burn it, but we were going to make steam to do electricity, and we figured 19 years we would have had enough municipal garbage by that time, which would have been around now, to maintain that plant. And when I went into office in 2005, they told me the dump had 3 years of life left.
Yeah,
20 years later?
We've been running that one for a minute, man.
Yeah, and I just saw one of the ministers said something about the dump has 6 years left.
They say it got a couple more, yeah.
And that was May 2005 I went into office. And it still has time. But it needs to be done.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at this from a practical perspective. We're this sophisticated country, and we shouldn't be dumping garbage there with such technology available.
Yeah.
And right in the middle of Georgetown, I also believe that environmentally it's not good for us. We have a legacy there that is very explosive. And who is going to deal with it? Who is going to take the bull by the horn and deal with this problem?
You guys were taking measurements from the dump of the leakage that was going into the North Sound, right?
Interestingly, when I commissioned that study, the same people that had done it 20, 30 years prior, and they had a record of all the seepage into the North Sound, or we believe was going into the North Sound. It hadn't changed one iota in 15 years. Because what they said was that the surrounding area was so compacted, the marl, that was by going the seepage going through that out of the dump, it was cleaning it up before it reached the North Sound.
Interesting.
And where we were getting the seepage was through you remember the dikes when mosquito research did those to flood all of the ponds with salt water to kill the mosquitoes. That's basically where it was going out through, not through the ground.
Every action has a reaction.
An adverse reaction.
Yeah.
And so that was interesting for me, that there was no environmental damage from the actual thing, except for those dikes where it was flowing through.
I wanted to ask you, you had, speaking of, I guess, projects, you had a controversial project at the time, which now I don't think anybody would take back in hindsight. And that was the beginning of the East-West Arterial, where you had to knock down Red Bay Plaza, one of my childhood plazas, as a matter of fact.
Dirty Reeds.
I learned how to play piano up in there.
Can you imagine your childhood? That was my drinking hole.
That was a plaza one. Yeah.
What was it like when you announced the plans to knock down the plaza and build this highway, and the backlash from the community at the time?
Well, the backlash was bad on me. I mean, they went at me. 2 times that I recall that I was really taken to task was the plaza, and when I built the road across in front of A.L. Thompson, the 5-lane highway there. But to the plaza in particular, it was a good comfort spot for people.
Yeah,
and I
man.
believe that caused more of the backlash. But I knew that we needed this place. And I didn't want to go to eminent domain and go and take it from them. I started discussing it with the owners, and we arrived at a price. It was bittersweet for me the day that we put the excavator bucket through the top of Dirty Reeds, especially on that end, that morning when we did that. But people did not particularly like that. Now, I believe, but one of my approaches to politics and life is, let's get it done. Let's get something done.
That's why they call you Action Man, yeah.
Let's get something done. I mean, you cannot tell me that one building, because we all drink there and we all have fun there, is going to stop progress.
Yeah.
We need to move on, and the country needs to evolve.
Well, you're not going to find, you'd be hard pressed finding about it. Say we need to go back to 2 lanes out there.
You know, and
lousy food, yeah. No, it was great food, man. It was great.
And then the interesting part of that was, though, the East West Arterial, was that I represented East End. But West Bay Road was more important to the economy of this country when you weigh those two.
Yeah.
And I went and did the West Bay Road first.
So this was when Cayman Bay only had 2 lanes going through it, and then the bottleneck was... No, this was
Cayman
before
Bay
that?
didn't have anything going through it.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
It was
you're right.
only West Bay Road.
Right, yeah.
And I went and did that and asked the people of East End, Town, Northside for forgiveness. You know,
Yeah, we don't go there anyway, Mr. Arden. Yeah. Bun them out. Yeah, we want our road. Yeah.
and then I went up to the East West Arterial, and when I was doing the first piece, true.
But even when you said that, like, listen, your constituency is like, yo, we need our roads. We need to be focused on us. You got in there and you understood and realized that West Bay Road had a greater economic value.
Yeah.
And that had to take precedent over.
Because I had people living,
But people won't get that.
constituents that were working on West Bay Road too. So it was more important for them to be able to get to West Bay Road and have relief down there.
We talking about the Essex Tibbetts Highway? Yeah.
And that was, at the time, it was behind, what's the plaza there? Cayman Bay Gate, that roundabout. The one on the north side of Cayman Bay.
You talking about West Shore?
West Shore, is that?
The
is
pink
that
one?
West Shore?
We're next to Wendy's?
Yes.
Or Galleria? Galleria is the blue one.
The one next to where the cigar shop was.
Yeah.
That's West Shore. Yeah.
The pink one, sorry.
The pink one.
Yeah, West Shore.
No,
which
that's not the pink one.
where Chelsea's
That's
is.
how we categorize it.
That's the blue one.
Pink one.
No, the blue one is the Galleria. That's closer. That's across from Blue Cilantro.
Yeah.
But
That's what I'm talking about by Blue Cilantro.
okay, well then, yeah.
Yes, the road was to there at the time.
Okay.
And a gentleman owned the property next to it, between that and Hyatt. And then Hyatt had, must be 5, 6 tennis courts there, in my way.
In my way. I think that's the episode title.
In my way?
In my
It
way.
was in my way to get the road to relieve the people of the West Bay.
Yeah.
So I took them out.
Yeah, people don't like this kind of stuff, man. I mean, and they don't curse about it 10 years from now. I remember you got in trouble for the road by Walker's Road too, when you wanted to come through the Ironwood Forest and give us connectivity to Walker's Road to the bypass.
And you remember what I said to them?
They said no.
Do you
Why?
remember what I said to them? Well, what I said to them up at the Vassal Johnson
UCCI,
Auditorium
yeah.
was, I said, well, I don't have a problem with it. I have a job to do. And it doesn't only include this. I am going to go on with the rest of the work that you have asked me to do. But when I am sitting in traffic 10 years from now, so too will you. wasn't that how it worked?
That's how they in traffic know. Yeah.
Yeah, that's how it works.
Yeah.
But I didn't have a problem with them stopping me. The self-owners wanted to stop me. The conservationists wanted to stop me. I made alternative routes to it to lessen the impact, and they still didn't want it. So what? The East-West Arterial, I got that to Newlands. Remember putting the extra lane out there to relieve the traffic coming out of Newlands as well. That was an interim measure until I could get to the bypass. And I did an estimate, a cost then, to extend it up to the police station, Bordentown. And that was like $21 million to do that.
In 2009 or so?
Seven, I think it was.
Probably should have did it back then.
But
Probably double now.
That's what I was getting at. That's what I was getting at. We should have built those roads at the time, because now with inflation.
But remember, we go back to the dump. Mm-hmm. I was multitasking. The dump is my biggest regret, but it was at the same time, and the recession hit us.
Yeah.
So that's why, if that recession didn't hit, there wouldn't be any talk about East-West Arterial now.
So that would have been done.
So you were
It
going.
would have been done.
If you had to drive the tractor yourself, you'd have been on there doing it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, man.
And to take it up to Northside Road, where they're talking about now, $2 billion or $1 billion or whatever it is, it was going to cost us just under $8 million. It was like 73 or something like that. And now they're talking about billions of dollars.
Yeah.
You know,
when we get that figure, is that also the figure in terms of purchasing land as well? Is that included or no?
No. Well, yes, it included, but you have to understand what happens is that you can do your best estimate on the purchase of land when you are proposing these things. But that doesn't necessarily mean that holds throughout, because you may have to negotiate a little harder later. Yeah. But you have already gazetted it. Listen, I didn't gazette that road. Let's give credit where it is due. Gilbert is one of the most ingenious politicians this country has ever seen. In this...
Mr. Gilbert McLean.
Gilbert McLean. Yeah. In the 80s, long before my time in politics, when Linford did the master ground transportation plan, I was on the planning board at the time. When he did that, the roads were as you see them now. And they estimated all the roads were going to cost $100 million. Took it to Parliament for approval, and Parliament rejected it. So the plans were in place, but he just wanted to gazette the corridors so in future.
It'll be used.
Because how that works is that you pay the cost of the land when it was gazetted. You can't expect pay an enhanced value on it. 30 years down the road, it's when it was gazetted. That's when you lost use of it. Okay?
That's genius.
So that's how that works. So when in 2005, a few days before the election, when we were in the heat of a campaign, Gilbert McLean gazetted that part of it, of the old master ground transportation plan. Mm. Not one person knew. I didn't know until I walked into the office and wanted them to show me things on road gazetters and corridors. And this was in front of me. I said, but who did this? And it was Gilbert McLean. So all I did was realigned it somewhat and built it. And that gazette is still there. And then on West Bay Road, to do that, it wasn't gazetted because government was having problems with Hyatt and whatnot. And remember, Hurricane Ivan has just passed. So it destroyed Hyatt. Perfect time for me. I said, we'll pay for the land later. Look at what it means today. Look at what it means today to the people of West Bay in particular, but the country in general.
Yeah, the connectivity.
Sometimes you have to make these decisions.
Listen, you're not going to find anybody say we need to stick to West Bay Road now.
Yeah. And a particular, one of the funny things about the West Bay Road, if I may.
Of course you may, yeah.
One of the proprietor sent us a claim, lost business and whatnot, much money. So I said, because we were taking off part of his building. So I said to Carson, my chief officer, I said, somebody need to check this out, man. I don't believe that. I believe that was an addition onto this building, He went and searched through planning. He had illegally built it. So I politely wrote him and told him I was referring it to the police.
Oh, to the police?
Because he had illegally built the building.
Yeah.
I didn't pay anything for it. And took it down too.
Yeah.
So speaking of roads that you wanted to cut land to build and stuff, let's talk about a road you didn't want cut.
Which one was that?
that harbor in East End. The marine that they wanted to build in East End.
Oh, yeah.
How did that start?
Well,
and how did that evolve to the point where you had to make threats that if they start the bulldozer, you're going to lay down in front of it?
Yeah.
Can I just say that too? Sometimes when politicians talk, you know what's puffery. You know what is just. I want to tell you the minute you said that.
That's genuine, buddy.
Oh, I believe you. I said to someone at the time, I said, "Oh no, he bought that life. He will lay down in front of that bulldozer." Yeah.
I'm going to tell you how serious I was. Just up the road from that was another Cayman by the big church there.
Mm-hmm.
And a blowhole was out there. This is just below the blowholes now. Out there, that's the prettiest one. But people don't see it because it's so far when you're coming around the blowholes. It's way out on the place there. And he had filled it up with cement.
The blowhole? Yeah,
because it was coming on his house. I went and got a compressor. I went out and dug it out myself. That's a fact.
He's a Cayman guy did that?
Yeah.
That's terrible, man. Come on.
He's now passed on, but I didn't ask him any question. It wasn't his blowhole. It was the people's blowhole.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, that one was... that one made me angry. When I was minister, Mr. Imperato wanted to do a golf course there, which Shadow Hospital is now.
Okay.
So I went and met with him, and I said to him, well, what is in it for me? And he thought I meant greasing my palms.
Yeah.
I said, no, it's not that. All I see here is green. What about a boutique hotel or something so people can get a little work? That's what I mean. He said, yeah, well, we can do that. So he left right up on the little cliff. He left probably about 8-10 acres to put a boutique hotel. It just so happened that somebody in the ministry, one of the other ministries, held it up for a long period of time because it had to get rezoned to do that, and the cabinet has to do the approval. That made me mad. And anyway, he just forgot about it then. Then the next thing I know, he's going, after I left cabinet, he's going to build a dock for government, which would be for government because government has land right there. So I called the Renan government at the time, and they said yes. I said, well, it won't be in East End. You need to find another piece of land or relocate his piece of land to someplace else because he's not building a dock in East End.
What were the plans for that dock?
What they were going to do, because he had 500-600 acres, and the government had like 100, I believe, adjoining it. What they were going to do was build a channel in, open it up, and you would have a dock inside there of 40, 50 acres, open water inside. So you would build a 600-foot wide channel, put breakers on the east side of it. And you know where that is. That's rough all the time. So they
Absolutely
have to do that. And then they would do transshipment, like how they do in Jamaica. Jamaica has a transshipment port, you see, because we were strategically located to go to America and South America, North and South and Central America, with the smaller class ships, you see. And I said no. Here's why I said no. I grew up in East End, going in land with my parents. What sustained the people of East End was provisions from the land and fishing. That sustained us. Let's be straight up with it. That's what happened. That's how we lived. There was nothing. I can, when I think of my adolescent years, it was nothing. Can you imagine what my grandparents went through? So I said, no, it's not going to happen East End. Because how we did it was we had fresh water inland. It wasn't where we had roads like we do now, but they had access to fresh water. They would dig their own wells to water their plants and sustained us. And they were coming within 1,300 feet of that. And they were going to blast that down 60 to 80 feet deep. You know what would have happened? We would have poured all of that fresh water into that salt water and destroyed. That land would have been barren by now without fresh water to sustain it. So, Mr. Imperator wrote me and invited me to see the plans. I said, okay, I went. And he said to me that he was going to build it because he had gotten approval from the government, from McKeever. I said, well, I don't know where you're building it, Joe, but you're building it up there. And I am going to be the first person to lay down in front of the first bulldozer you put there. He said, but Arden, I have approval from the government. You haven't got it from the people of East End. So I went around and the people of East End objected to it. And I went and put up, I don't know if you all remember, I had all those billboards.
I remember them.
I got pictures of it. them. And put all these billboards in. And planning wrote me. Said that I had illegally erected billboards on the government land because the seaside is government. I said, me? Not me. It's the people of East End that did that. So they said, well, you were spearheading it. That is true. And I argued back and forth with them. And I said, don't know why you serve it on me when I'm not the crown. You need to go serve it on Cap Bent. And I argued back and forth with them to delay anything for 6 weeks. And we went and take down the signs. It had their effect.
Yeah, it did his work already.
Yeah, it already did his work. And they're arguing with me while I'm quite nicely arguing with them so that it could delay the inevitable of removing them.
I remember you going on Rooster many times, speaking about they were not going to be building that, even though it did sound like they were about to build it and start digging. But what eventually killed that project?
The people of East End. I know that one. Everybody
And
knows.
then I said to
Y'all Easterners are different. Let's just say that.
I said to
they don't romp. Yeah.
to the developer, I said, why don't you give some of this land to Shatter? They were just coming in then. And they eventually sold some of it to Shatter. And then they built the road up there. You see all the rocks there?
Mm.
I went and stopped that too. So you can't take a rock off here. Not one pebble will you take off this property. I went to planning, and I objected to it. I objected to a lot of things in the district of East End in the interest of the people.
What did you want to do with that excavation?
You must use it back on the site.
Mm-hmm.
But eventually I gave in, and when he applied to remove it, it had been sitting there as an eyesore, so I gave in on that one. I objected to the chicken farm in East End as well, across from Tortuga Club.
They were going to do a chicken farm?
They were going to do 20 to 30,000 chickens across there.
Might need them now.
Yeah, you need them now. But I objected to that as well. It was, you don't do putting that in a tourist area.
Oh yeah, for sure.
No way.
For sure.
So the dock was stopped and today Shatter is there.
You and Emperado still cool?
Cool. You were never cool. Cool. You can't come into my community and try to bully the people.
Mm.
You know the government. And that's what a representative do.
Mm.
The first rule of politics is the process starts with the people enabling you to talk on their behalf. That's how it starts. Right now we have no parliament. It has a provision to recall if you have an emergency war, blah, 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 whatnot. But right now we have no parliament. And Wednesday is when that process starts.
New election. Yeah.
Then you get a parliament.
Go ahead.
I wanted to ask you, since you were a founding member of the PPM at the time in 2002? Or
2001.
2001, okay. And was it a difficult decision when you decided to no longer be affiliated with the PPM? I guess you left in 2011? 12.
That was difficult for me. But it was something necessary for me. It was based on principles. I believe in organized politics. I want to be upfront with that. I believe in organized politics. The only way organized politics is through parties. That's rule number one. And I put my life into that to make sure. And if you will remember, we ran 9 candidates and got 9. Only time in the country that has ever happened. We ran 9 candidates, got 9 seats.
Oh, that's when y'all had the brooms out that year.
That's right.
That wasn't Chris out there sweeping. Yeah.
At the time, I managed that whole campaign. That's me doing that. Remember all those big billboards? They're now putting them back up again. But you remember all those big billboards? That's me.
Had y'all in the blue suits.
That's 20
red
years.
ties,
20 years ago. There were 6 of us. Arden, Kurt, Tony, Edna,
Lucille?
Miss Lucille, and myself. 6 of us started that. And we worked hard to build that up to the 2005 general election. The 2009, we lost the election. We lost government. And then by 2012, I began to see the ideals, the objectives. of the PPM going in the opposite direction. And I didn't like that.
Was there any specific deal breakers for you? What was the actual breaking point, or was it just the conflation of everything?
I think it was the conflation of everything and the not following the rules of what we had put down that we were asking ordinary people to subscribe to. And going in a direction that we could manipulate that whole system when there was no need to manipulate it. For instance, if you wanted a candidate, if there was a vacancy in caretakers, you would have to go to the general council, general meeting, and get them elected, a new caretaker for a constituency. And I noticed where we were going in a direction of appointing somebody from the parliamentary group. I said, I didn't subscribe to this. I didn't write this. And I'm not going to be a part of it. That was not taken on board lightly. I asked them for a meeting, and to Kurt's credit, we had the meeting. And I point blank tell Kurt his time had come. His shelf life had reached the expiry date. And if we couldn't run the party by ourselves, then we shouldn't be worthy of being a part of the party. If we hadn't developed enough currency by that time, then Alden and I shouldn't be there. Anyway, he agreed because he was tired. He wanted more. And we had to go to a general meeting to appoint a new leader. And we agreed. There were only two of us that would do that. We agreed that we would not campaign. We would allow the membership to do what they wanted to do, but without soliciting any votes. And before the ink was dried on that, everybody was soliciting. And I said, you know what? This is not good. So I stepped back and withdrew my name from nomination. And when I withdrew my name, we went to the conference, appointed Alden as the political leader of the parliamentary group and the party. And there were some expectations of the people, by the membership, that I would naturally become the deputy leader of the party. And this went on and went on for some time, that I was not asked to step up to be the deputy leader of the party. And I most gracefully asked them to have a meeting. And I said I was resigning. Then, that became a controversy in the country as well. So when they said, or when I went campaigning recently for Sterling and called those West Bay as quitters.
I might have saw a video about that, yeah.
Yeah, one or two times, yeah. They then sent out something, said, trying to infer that I quit. I was a quitter with PPM too. But there is a fundamental difference between he who quits his party for sake of country and he who quits his country for sake of one individual. Okay? Or to create a party. There's a fundamental difference. So I quit. And within a week of me quitting, Mose was appointed deputy leader. I can't point to anything out of that. Maybe it was time that we had a deputy leader, but about almost 6 months with me that I wasn't appointed. So, Chris, I have no regrets. I have very few regrets in life. You notice I move on with my life. I go on to a different thing. Like I said, going back to the dump, that is the one that is going to my grave with me. I'll never forget that. I think of it every day. I have the copies of it, of all the work we did, prominently displayed in my house, so I do not forget.
Let me get into that a little bit, because you first ran in '82.
Mm-hmm.
You lost to
John McClean Sr.
Yeah, he was in there. It was a monument to move, so that was a difficult one for you. You didn't run in '96. You ran again in 2000, so you were in there for what, about 4 terms? 20?
No.
4?
I was there for 5.
5 terms?
Yeah.
5 terms. You lost in 2021.
Right.
So I know that most politicians, when they lose an election, they don't really take that sort of indication from the people. In 2021, you're saying this was it for me. This is you listen to the people of East End. There was no coming back in 2025. I want to know your thought process when it comes to that in 2021. That kind of message that you got. Yeah.
I might be a little different from most people. But
I don't.
But I'm going to give it to you from my perspective.
Yes, sir.
Warren Conley, who was my predecessor, one remove, said to me once, he lost in 1976. And
yeah, we were there.
Chris was definitely there.
And you guys weren't born then, right?
No, Chris was born. He was there.
Okay.
Absolutely not.
I said to him in 1980, I said, Mr. Warren, why didn't you run? Because you remember David and I were like brothers. So I was always at Warren's house. David Rich.
Yes, sir.
So I said to him, why didn't you run in the election? This way he'd have won, might have been. He said to me, there comes a time in a politician's life that their ideas are still good, but they're old. Get out. Leave it alone. I think the time has come that I had to subscribe to that too. I had to recognize that my ideas are very good. I'm still vibrant, but my ideas are old. The time has come for you all now. You're the ones. The future is yours. It's not mine as much as it is yours in the long run.
Yes, sir.
You all need to step up to that plate. Young kids. You know what inspires me is when I see young people. When I came here, I met a young lady that is doing stuff here with you guys. What drove me as a parliamentarian was that I could take these young kids all over the world and have trained them speak in other people's parliaments. And now they have all been successful, I should say, youth parliament in this country. They have all been successful, educated and gone their own way and stuff. But not too many of them are stepping back and stepping out in politics. And I'm a little bit taken aback. I'm a little disappointed.
Me too, Mr. McClean. Me too.
If that satisfies people. But when I ran in 92, I was as green. If you had stood me up in in a grass piece, the cow would have eaten me without even blinking an eye.
Yeah.
I knew I was talking over the heads of people. But I didn't know how much. I lost badly. 390 something to 100, I think it was.
That's not that bad considering
Not that
some
bad.
of the people that we've seen.
Not that bad. 200. 200.
I mean, you got to keep your money. You got to keep your money, right? Or you got your money
Yes,
back?
yes,
I
I
said.
got-
Yeah.
so
So
you did
it wasn't
all
that
right. Yeah,
bad.
you
Wasn't
did
that
all
bad
right.
then?
Right. And then in 96, my sister was sick with a tumor on the brain. And I couldn't serve two masters. I had to let one go. So I went to Oswald ran. And then in 2000, I thought I was ready again. And I ran, successful. I spent 20 years there. A little over 20 years and 6 months, I believe, something like that. Getting to what my thought process was after the election. I was not upset. I was concerned that all of the knowledge that I had gained over those 20 years was going to be for naught. And that made me very concerned. But I said to my two boys, I was green at one time too, so hopefully we can move this forward. Well, we know. We see the history of it now. But I made them a promise that I would never do it again. I don't think people, despite me saying this is your time now, the two of you and that young lady that I met when I came here, I ain't gonna call her name. You can if you want.
Yeah, I will.
Despite me saying that you all should step up to the plate, I believe that there are things that this country needs in the broader sense of experience as well. I truly believe that. And I could give you a little story of my tenure in the Parliament 9 months after going there. Arden and I were like peas in a pod because we got elected at the same time. And we would stay up nights writing speeches. Arden would call me, oh, you don't touch that, I got to touch that. And you take this part. And we would have it in the 3-binder folders. And we would read our speeches. And Linford, Keith got up on a point of order. We were there 9 months then. Captain Mabry was the speaker. And he got up on the point of order. And he said to the speaker, when the speaker asked him what the point of order was, he said to the speaker, this goes for the member who's currently speaking, which was Arden from Georgetown. But it also goes for the member from East End. I need to remind them, and we all should, that this is not a reading class. This is a debating house. That was lessons. Those were lessons. Arden closed his folder, and he hasn't written the speech since.
Don't tell Chris that. That's his boy over there. Don't tell Chris that. You like that, huh?
And likewise, mine hadn't been open. But I said, since you all want to debate, you ain't saying nothing yet. And it's 9 months in. After that, they called us the Young Turks. But we were lucky. 6 of us went in. At the time, it was 15 members there. And all the others had 20, 15, 16, 12 years. People like Edna Moyle, who had been Clark, Linford Pearson, who had done everything. McKeever, Gilbert McLean, Roy Budden. So we learned from the best. The group of Alden, myself, Lyndon, CG, Rolston, and Captain Eugene. We had the best teachers in the parliamentary process in this country. And that, what I understood, that I had to immerse myself in it. And I took every opportunity to go to other parliaments and listen. You know how many parliaments in the Commonwealth I have been guessing there up on the platform, inside the house? And I read as much as I could. That's why I became very proficient, very knowledgeable in parliamentary processes. But if you're not going to take it in that vein, then you're not going to be able to understand. So I said to my boys, my two sons, this I will never do again. I didn't view politics as power. I knew there were certain things I could do. I knew there were certain restrictions. I knew there were certain secrecy acts that I have become very concerned about over the last few days with one, should I say podcast or pundit, I don't know, exposing letters that should be, it encroaches on the Secrecy Act and the Confidentiality Act. It's serious. We need to be very careful with that. But I viewed politics as having, I said earlier, the people enable you to be a member. I viewed politics as a job. I was hired to do a job. And I was going to do that to the best of my ability until I got fired. And I was fired in 2021. They did not think I was doing the job that they hired me to do. So what am I going to do about that? I have never, in my working life, fired someone then hired them back.
They say he wasn't going back.
If you are doing a job and you're not doing it well, whether it's incompetence, inefficiency, I don't know, and the relationship has to end. This is logical, isn't it? You can't come look for me 4 years later and tell me you want me to do the same job that you just fired me 4 years ago from. I ain't got no practice, in 4 years,
But this is you though. Let me ask you this, because you have some people who are running that has been fired before, and they.
But I said I was going to say that from my perspective.
Yeah.
People. I don't know what drives these people.
Yeah.
I know what drives me. I'm too old now. My ideas are good.
Yeah.
I could go there and build an East-West arterial, but they're old. Maybe we need to build it in a different way. Politics is about principles and methods. You don't oppose the principle. And that young lady that we were talking about a while ago, she understands that.
Yeah, man, I love her, man. She
understands that.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Let me look at her over here.
She has East End roots too, so.
Okay. So she's good people then. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. Let me give you an illustration. It is believed that the passenger liner dock needs to be built. That's the principle, whether or not we build it. You don't oppose the principles. You oppose the methods you use. That dock can be built out there without much damage to the environment. Built on pylons. And you don't even miss the footprint of one pylon, maybe 5 pylons. So that's the kind of stuff. But I don't support them filling in nothing out there. I don't. If they were to come up with pylons, I wouldn't have a problem with it. But I'm not at the principle, I'm at the methods. I'm at the methods. We need to ensure we attack the right thing. I mean, the East-West arterial. Everybody agrees we want it, we need it. It's the principle of needing the road. The methods you're using is what I have a problem with. When you put it 200 feet in the air.
Mm-hmm.
So what you're doing is creating 2 things. One, you're sending a message that you don't want anything built along there. You would have to go up in the sky to get to it, to the road. And you're building it up there, and the same amount of the ecosystem that you got destroyed with it being on the ground, you're destroying with it being up because you're blocking out all the sun from it anyhow.
Yeah.
It's the methods.
The methods.
Forget about the principle. Let's look at the methods and come to a compromise on how we get it done. You know, the least damage to the environment, the least damage to the human. But you cannot protect. You cannot be an extremist and say you cannot do anything. You cannot be an extremist to that point, especially when it is adverse. Your opinion is adverse to human development and advancement. You cannot. So how do we move ahead?
I want to ask you about the last 4 years and how the state of the current state of the country and how you view it, and how also the evolution of the 3 administrations we kind of had throughout the past 4 years.
Okay. Let me begin with a simple fact, which that young lady will know because she sees it every day. When you go in, when Parliament is created, when Cabinet is created, a picture is taken and it hangs in the foyer. Every change there too, to Cabinet, you have to do another picture. 4 years has seen us have 5 pictures in there. When it was formed, after the election, that one picture. When the governor came, that's another picture. The governor changed. That's another picture. When they moved Chris, that's another picture because I got different Minister of Finance. When you move in, that's another picture. And then when the new government formed, when the new...
When the guys left.
The other governor came there. No, when the new cabinet was formed now, that's another picture. That's 5 pictures. You know. We had one with PPM, and we left it up there. There's no space left in there for pictures. What it says to you is that we have played musical chairs with the governance of this country, and it needs to stop. I said people view this thing as power. There is no power in the abuse of people. You're doing it wrong. You're doing it wrong when you try to take absolute control. it shows people cannot work together. You know how many days I had differences with Kurt Tibbetts when I was a minister? You wouldn't believe. 2, 3, and I go home mad. 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, I hear a knock on my door. And when I get to the door, it's Kurt Tibbetts. I said, what do you want? Because I've been bad with him all day. Bobo, let's go throw 2 lines along north side. Fish from the shore, you know. And by the time we get back home at 6 o'clock to go to work, Kurt has convinced me that I was wrong. That's what politics is. That's what you have to do and stay focused.
Yeah.
I'm disappointed.
I don't want Kurt to come visit me.
That's leadership, though, right?
It's called leadership.
Yeah.
It's called leadership. And then
understanding how to deal with conflict.
Yeah. And
you don't feel like we had that understanding of how to deal with conflict over the past 4 years?
Absolutely not. I mean, everybody was trying to piece together and hold something together. You think Julia had it easy with them couple that she had there? She didn't have it easy. I can tell you she didn't have it easy. She don't have to tell me. Everybody's running all over the place because they want what they want.
Yeah.
And then we reached the point where everybody's blaming Julia because the budget may have a deficit. It doesn't say it has a deficit yet, you know. You just need to reshuffle your priorities so you can bring it down to a break even or to a surplus. Everybody's blaming Julia. You know the amount of strings that was pulling on her from different directions to get things done. Of course, that's what happens. But all of those guys who went in there, and albeit some of them were new, the first thing a politician do is want to prove to your constituents that you are worthy of their vote. So you got to fight for your constituencies. Then the leader needs to balance that with the finances of the country. And if they don't, you're going to have a deficit. You cannot be like a pin cushion. Every time someone stick it leaves an impression. That's what pin cushion does. You cannot be. You have to be strong. You see how Alden kept that group he had together?
You're talking about from 2017 to 21?
No, 13 to 21.
Oh, okay.
13.
You think that was easy for him? But he used the sword over their heads.
Sir Alden, maybe? Yeah.
That was...
Yeah, metaphorical.
Yeah.
He drew his sword and held it up to their necks. That's how sometimes you have to do that. And say, no, we're not doing it that way. And if you want it done that way, we go to a general election. But you get frightened then.
Nobody want to lose that seat. Yeah.
But I believe that the last 4 years, I believe that the reason so many people are running now is a direct result of what happened over the last 4 years. Here's why I say that. When you go into politics, the first thing you got to remember is you're not running a fish shop. You're not managing a fish shop. People's lives depend upon every utterance, every word uttered from your mouth. One way or the other, you're affecting somebody. The people who were in the last 4 years, I just say it. The majority of them, their conduct, their behavior was not in line with the sanctity of that place. They have degraded the sanctity of Parliament. When I went to Parliament in 2000, I was in awe of that place. That's no longer. Everybody wants to do what they want to do and think they're in a street brawl, and they're not. So everybody else outside say, if they can do it, I can do it too. So everybody comes out. And they're not wrong. They're not wrong. But the kind of behavior that I have seen in them, granted, I said earlier that I had people like Linford. A classic example of Linford. I'm up there saying, I think it was the speaker. Which speaker? I don't remember. I said, no, Julia was in the chair. Madam Speaker, they're saying all kind of things out there about me, that I did this and I did that and I did that. And Linford called for the suspension. He got him broke my debate and called for suspension for 15 minutes. We did the suspension, and Linford carried me into the Miss Anna little room. And he said, the first rule is, do not say anything bad about yourself. There are enough people out there saying that already. When you start saying things bad about yourself, you're confirming what they're saying outside. Leave it alone. Those are little lessons that you have to learn. I was loud. We all know that. So what are you going to do? Put me in loud jail now too? I was loud, but I was principled. I believed in what I was doing. I believed in people. I believe in this country. I believe in its people. And I defended them every opportunity I got.
You are speaking of, I guess, having a certain passion. So when I look at people like yourself and I realize it's campaign season, I know you're missing. It's a part of your life. You must be missing this season, but you've kept yourself quite busy. You're involved. Tell me a little bit about how you're finding that process and giving in this sense of campaigning, because you've been campaigning for a few persons. I want to get you out of here, and you probably got another thing to get to as we get down to the wire. But tell me how you're finding your foot when it comes to not being on the platform stage for yourself, but now for other people, and realizing what's at stake and how powerful your voice is when it comes to endorsing someone.
I don't know if my voice is powerful.
You went viral. Come on, I saw it.
That video made its rounds.
Yeah.
I believe to be honest, I believe I still have a little currency in this country. Because I've been honest. Straight up. I have been honest with people. No one can point their finger at me and say that I have lied on them or about this country. No one can say I've taken anything from this country. Because anyone who says that and point their finger at me, then I gotta grab hold of their finger and we gotta have a problem. I love the thrust of campaign. I love that. That is when I am at my best. Some of my good friends, like prime ministers and stuff, they sort of had that video as well, and they sent me all kind of message from the East Caribbean, and one from Malaysia, I believe, the deputy prime minister, Anyway, I don't miss it per se, but I enjoy it. I really do. I went on people's platform. I'm not affiliated with any party. I want everybody to know that. There are certain individuals I believe I have the capacity to determine political character. And I endorse those. And for instance, I'm all over the place. Like, Jiva's my lady in East End. Jiva is like the lady, the young lady we were talking about. She started with me when she was 1920 in 92. She worked her way up in my committee to co-chair in my committee. I know who she is. I know what she brings to this country. I know what she's going to bring to the people of East End. So I'm supporting her. She's with Dan Scott's party. It makes no difference to me. I support Jay Northside for various reasons. I see what he has brought to this country. I support Raoul and Newlands for different reasons. We ain't got to go. That's simple. I support Sterling in West Bay because Andre got to go. He's a quitter. And when you desert your post, you must be found guilty and dishonorably discharged. That's how I view this thing. I don't support either one of the parties. I'm not affiliated with either one. That's unfortunate because I really believe that I could bring something to the party if they have the same ideals as I have. But I don't see that. I have a right to have an opinion. This country belongs to you and I. And the same right you have to stand on the platform and voice your support for someone, I have to voice my support against that person. And likewise with me. And the morning after election, one of two things you're going to be doing as a candidate. You're going to be celebrating, or you have turned into a pathologist overnight. You're digging up dead bones and dead bodies to see what killed them. You could be performing pathology. You gotta be a pathologist. You know? It's post-mortem the next day. Or you're celebrating. You need to decide which one you want to be. Because 58 can't go in 19. 19 can go into 58. Okay? So only 19 of that 58 win, you know.
Tell me something real quick before we started recording. You mentioned something about the night before the election. I guess that final rally, that final platform push. What do you say that's the time when you do what exactly?
Well, the night before election is a feel-good night. Anyone who has not decided at that time, you can't win. They have decided they're not going to vote. Very few you're going to get out of that.
That's down to where you. I want you to give me the word you use though. You said that's the night you beat one.
But you should do it a couple of nights before.
Yeah.
You got beat man.
Beat one.
You expect you're going to get beaten. You expect you're going to get beaten. You need to make sure that that your opponent is so damaged that he's viewed as damaged goods. And then all those who went along with him will never put him in a good position. You see, you hear what your opponent was saying about you, all them things. If it's a fact, you need to do it. You can't be covering up. I mean, let's go back to Trump. You see what he did? Kamala? He beat her. Who won? Once you have lost, you can't do anything but the man who won, you know. You can't appeal that, you know. So why don't you win? So they don't appeal against you? That's how life is. That's how politics is. So you beat him. Make people know what he is, what kind of character he is. You stood for.
You had mentioned something about having your name at the bottom of the ballot. The reason why you used
Oh yeah.
I was talking about your initial, what your initial stood for.
Oh yeah,
because I'm Victor with a V, so I wanted to know yours, but you started to get into a little bit of the strategy behind.
Well, yeah. My dad named me Vincent, which I don't particularly like. He named me after one of his friends, but that's all right. I have lived with it all this time. But I always use Arden. But my whole political career, except for twice, was running against other McCleans. This is a family battle royale. It was John Sr. and John Jr. So, to make sure that my name stood out, those were the days we didn't have pictures, huh? To make sure my name stood out, and it was easy for me to tell people where to put the X, I put V in front of the Arden, but I wouldn't spell out the Vincent, because you're placed on the ballot in alphabetical order. So the first thing they start with is your surname. So when you got two McCleans, V is after J, you know. So I come second. I don't want to be at the top of the ballot because that is too clustered. And I have always been at the bottom of the ballot. Just trace your hand down to the last one. That was a strategy on my part. It didn't work in 21, though.
Oh, man.
What do you think about one man, one vote now before we get out of here?
You want to tell him who brought one man, one vote?
His big friend, too.
Yeah, but I know, but I just want to make sure you get your credit. That's all.
I don't need nothing.
Things to say about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know who, brought one man, one vote, but when I ran 92, the record will reflect. The first time we had televised was 92, except for 88. We had something out in the town hall out here. I said then, if Georgetowners can have 4 votes, East Enders need multiple too, and North Side. I have been an advocate of single-member constituency long before politics. True democracy requires equality. Let's look at America, the great America that we like to talk about. Iowa, 3 million votes. California, 45 million. How you go equalize that except one man, one vote? Here we are in this country, people talking about, oh, well, some constituencies got 1,400, East End got, let's say 1,000, no, just about 1,000. Cayman Islands got 500 and blah, 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 blah. And we need to equalize them, so we got to shift the boundaries. You can't. The Constitution does not allow you to do it. The Constitution is very specific. The same one we voted for in 2009. Very specific. It says single-member constituency. And I'm paraphrasing. While recognizing the traditional boundaries. So what that says is East End must remain in place. North side, the boundaries. Baden Town must remain in place, but we split them up inside there, within Baden Town, in equal amounts. Georgetown, same thing, in equal amounts. If you got 4, then you split it in 4. Georgetown got 7 now. You split it in 7. That is what it means. Everybody has missed that. And I don't know why people miss that. And it's no different in our Constitution than it is all over the world. Equal votes. You know why we it's in there to recognize, I think the word is, the traditional boundaries. Let's look at the uniqueness of East End. Culturally, we're different from North Side. And West Bay is different from us. That's why you have to maintain those traditional boundaries. To maintain that. You see me being, okay, I don't vote in East End, but can you see me be part of North Side or Baden Town? They're different from us, you know, and we're different from them. That's how it works. And now, and this debate could go on for a long time, but just quickly let me tell you, everybody is saying, oh, we need multi-member constituencies. For what? Nobody can justify why they need another vote, or 4 votes, or 7 votes, or 3 votes. Nobody can justify it. We need to ensure that it's one man, one vote. Now, to satisfy those who are screaming from the mountaintop about multi-votes, I've also advocated for
like a national.
at large.
Okay.
We can't do a national vote either. Now, the closest you come to a national vote is at large vote, and whether it's 3, 4, 2, or whatever you want. BVI has it, Tux is going there now. But somebody got something on the internet. I heard it on the radio, 5vote.ky. I just don't understand what they're trying to achieve. I don't. Now, what we need to do is, in my view, this at-large concept came into place because of small jurisdictions, and you can't split it up no more. But we need more people in Parliament to be able to go on the executive. So you do it at-large vote. So you would have 1 vote for your representative, and then 3, 4, or whatever for that large. And that should satisfy those who are squealing for these multi-votes.
He said squealing. He said squealing.
yeah, that's what they're doing.
Because I think there's a concern that, you know, we've tried this one person, one vote, and we don't see how, you know, it's been working as it was intended to do so. And the fear now is with you know, the horse trading that takes place, for example, after the election, where, you know, you don't know who your minister is or your prime. Someone's over there messaging me over there. Sorry, you should be on the pod, actually, miss. So yeah, I guess I can just see where there's some concerns as to one man, one vote not working as it was intended, and is there a situation now where we should look at making some adjustments and changing, not necessarily running away from it fully, but at least is there some acknowledgement on the part of saying, yeah, maybe we could probably do some tweaks. And I see that you've conceded that a little bit here by saying perhaps doing this at large type of setup.
Let me explain why I say that, do at large. Yeah. Because the Parliament needs more people, you know.
Okay.
We voted for a constitution to 2009 which said that the executive, there shall be a cabinet which shall not exceed 2/5 of Parliament. And that's for a particular reason, because Parliament enables the executive. And this is to be able to remove them. So you got your 2/3 majority. Okay? And right now, we're in contravention because only 19 members and 8 executive. To remove anybody in the executive, the premier, you have to dip into cabinet. Who go and vote against their own premier?
Yeah.
So that is why I want to see that large, to increase the numbers. And I don't want to hear this foolishness about too many members there now. You don't know what it takes. If you want to run a democracy, you're going to pay for it. That's what you're going to do. But you need to run it properly.
Yeah.
I don't understand why people are so incensed about the single member constituency. Why isn't it working? Let me tell you why it's not working. It's the people who don't make it work. But they have a right not to make it work. It's first past the post. And if more people vote for number 1 than vote for number 4, that's the one getting past the post first. And that's who's winning. So the people have made that choice. Now, if they mix that up, there is merit in saying that they have elected those individuals and they must work together.
Yeah.
That is why you get your horse trading. That is where that comes from, that you try to come together for a coalition. Didn't Germany just have one?
Mm-hmm.
Isn't Israel operating on that one? These are normal ways of forming governments.
Yeah.
So we allow people to come in here, these pundits who pick up a stenographer's pad when they reach here and found a pen at Kirk's and call themselves journalists and call it horse trading.
Oh, boy.
Horse trading with who? You see any tail on me?
So,
Or any saddle on my back? It is a coalition.
yeah.
And you sit down and discuss it and come together. And you govern the country with what has been given to represent the people. It is by the people and for the people. The people, not politicians. It has nothing to do with politicians. It has to do with the people, unfortunately, and we can discuss that at some stage.
Yeah.
We don't have a recall in this country.
Yeah.
Okay? Whether we want to do that or not, that's fine. Or you want to wait for 4 years under the Westminster system, that's entirely up to the people. But it's by the people and for the people. So stop complaining about horse trading. This is what the people have chosen. And now they ask you to come together and work. Oh, but when they do it in Germany and France, it's not horse trading. And when they do it in England, it's not horse trading. When they do it in Canada, it's not horse trading. Or they are more sophisticated than us. Oh, no. Let me tell you, my friend, they are not. We're all human beings. We're all politicians. A number of you have said, oh, the people here do not know what they're doing. The politicians who get in there do not know what they're going. You know what one said to me in Canada? To stop hurricanes, we should put a nuclear bomb down the middle of it and blow it up. That's smart. That's smart.
Oh, my.
I am raw. It is what it is.
No.
I can't change that.
Well, we kind of pressed for time, but I want to see if you can come back on, but I want to know if you're going to let us get a little insight into that room once you are elected and you guys go in there to do
The negotiating.
Not the horse trading, the negotiations on how to form the government. You think you'll come back for me one time and you can give us some insight into what that process is like? Within
Which
reason,
one?
of
The
course.
one, the negotiations that come are the one that ended, that was done in 2021. That's how we're part of that too, you know.
I know. I want. Yo, you was. Oh, we gotta get a part 2 on.
I did some marriages there,
What we got for time?
and
I think
I'm
we
not a marriage officer.
How much time?
Yeah, we got to save that for another time. We'll bring you back, man. Chris, get on your scheduling, man. Get Mr. McClean back in here. We're gonna talk about that. I won't get the 2017 rundown and the 2021. That's the one with 2017 is when McKeith took the picture with one group, and then Graham dropped the picture with another group a couple hours later. Yeah, so I want to touch on that, man. You got any final questions?
You should have been East End Friday night. I touched on it at the meeting Friday night at Jiva's meeting.
Okay.
Yeah. That one is interesting, but the 2001 is interesting.
We're gonna come back and get that one.
2001 was the turtle stew one.
2000, yeah.
Yeah, that's the famous turtle stew.
And that was the one that everybody signed besides me. They said they were going to support a particular cabinet besides me. I can show you that too.
Okay. Any final comments, questions before we out of here with Mr. McClean?
No, man. I'm good.
Thank you, guys.
As well.
After the election, when the negotiations are going on, let's see what happens.
I'm gonna bring you back in, man, for
A recap.
Yeah, a recap.
A recap of the election.
Don't.
Oh, you might be busy actually. You might get called in to go make some more marriages.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This time I'll walk with my Bible, though.
Listen, Mr. McClean, I want to thank you for joining us, man. Braving the seat. Yeah, we appreciate you. I know that was a thing that me and Chris talked about when you and Ezra didn't get returned in 2021. That the house was losing a wealth of knowledge and experience, and it's good to see you, a couple other players as well, out there sort of still talking and mentoring and passing on some of the game, I would say, to the next lot. So I definitely, on behalf of me and my generation, thank you, and hope to see you again soon in the chair.
Well, thank you. One of the things I say to people about that is, it's okay for me to be here, because them guys wanted me go on boards from 21, and I said, hang on, the wounds are still too fresh, man. People are going to cause problems with controversy. So after 4 years go by, that's why you should never name anything after someone whilst they're alive, because things can change. And there should be a policy developed in this country. 10 years after you did, we can name it after you. We know you're not coming back then. And we know we have dug up all that could be dug up on you.
Yeah.
But thank you very much.
Yeah. Well.
And sure, I'll come back.
Don't forget us, man. Hope it wasn't too bad for you, man.
I'm comfortable with you young Turks.
Call us young one. I like that.
Yeah, I'm very comfortable.
Yeah.
And if me coming here can pass something on to you, I'm going to die with this here, This knowledge that I have, I'm going to die with. It's wasted if I don't tell you.
Yeah.
But you will listen to it and use it any way you can so that you can adjust it to suit your time.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And that's what I did, and that's what you all need to do. And when I'm planted in East End in that cemetery, it's gone. Don't wish you should have asked me that question based on my experience, that you think I could have enlightened you. Don't wish then. Do now.
You hear that, Jamel? I'm gonna get on Jamel for you, man. I gotta take care of it, man.
All right.
Let's go to here. Chris, you want to throw this out? I mean, you've been doing it for the last couple episodes.
All right, fine.
LinkUp host, man. Throw it.
Oh, geez, here we go. All right, thank you, Mr. McClean, for coming again. I'm very much appreciated, and I cannot wait to have you back soon. This has been the LinkUp Podcast. Whether you are driving to work, from work, at work, doing work, not doing work, we appreciate you tuning in, listening. Follow us at PodLinkUp on IG, the LinkUp Podcast on YouTube. This has been the LinkUp episode 134. 4. Until next time.